scarves. Let's get some scarves. Let's get some scarves. Let's get some scarves.
Now, I know that all of you have seen the news and that we are to the point where we all wear face masks over our faces in public. So it's that time to actually take yet another precaution for respiratory droplets of covering your nose and mouth at all times. However, I don't think that you have to do this with those ugly bandanas you're finding at the grocery store, or maybe that's what you're using all that toilet paper for. I'm not sure. The point is, you can do this. We can all do this, but we don't have to be ugly. So I'm going to show you some fun ways to use all those scarves you got in the closet to make yourself protected against COVID. Now, my husband often says, I think you have too many scarves. And I'm like, shut up. But I do have a lot. So we will be able to try on different styles and textures and colors and figure out what's best for you. So let's get started, okay? Here's our first scarf option. Now, this is actually made out of some very fabulous Indian fabric. And the first thing you want to do with your scarf is make sure the breathability test is passed. How do you do the breathability test? Well, put it over your face like this and breathe. Now notice, it's going in and out of my mouth. That means it's a pretty tight weave of cloth. It's not going to let a lot of droplets through. And what we want with the breathability test is for it to move a little bit. If it doesn't move at all, that's okay as long as it's thick enough. But this is super thin. As you can see, it's very thin. So we want to make sure that we can breathe through it, or possibly we may need to double it up in order to protect ourselves. So see, so that's okay. Now, how are we going to put this particular scarf on? Well, the most important step with the scarf is finding the pretty part to put over your face, right? We don't want to wrap it and have some weird pattern over our nose. We want it to be really pretty. So here we're going to pick the area with all the crystals, put that directly over our nose. We're going to go under our ears, taking all the cloth to the back and then adjust it. And then you can just tie it and pull it up. Now, at this point, you may find the cloth isn't tight enough, and that's okay, because you can use a scrunchie or a rubber band or whatever you need to. You may even pull it up over your ears to get a little bit of tension, but then you can just take a rubber band or a scrunchie and tighten it just like that, and then you're good, okay? So that's very practical. And if you need to stop and smoke a cigarette, you can just pull it down. If you need to give someone a kiss or say hello, cheek kisses, whatever, you can pull it down, and then you just put it right back up and you look great again. Now, the alternative way to wrap any scarf is to actually use your head as part of the anchor. So we can fold this over like this, keeping this in our hand here, and we're going to wrap, and then we can tie. And now we have the ability to pull this in, and you may need a bobby pin, but you can hold these types in, and then it's going to cover your mouth and stay in place, and also protect your head. And for example, you haven't bathed in 3 or 4 days because you haven't seen anyone, this is a good option as well. Notice we can still breathe, but all respiratory droplets are going to be captured by this. Now, when selecting a fabric, do make sure it's easily washable. We don't want to use something that we have to dry clean, because then we're only going to be able to use it once, then we have to wait for dry cleaning to come back, and it's going to be a problem. This particular fabric is quite delicate, but can be hand laundered at home, or you might even choose to Scotch guard it up front. Then it will even be more protected. Now, our next option is something that even you guys probably have laying around at home. This is a standard neck scarf. You can see that it just goes around your neck. This happens to be Furbery, not that other brand, but Furbery. This one is easily breathable. You can see the in and out there, but it also is mostly a length of cloth as opposed to a small piece of cloth. So this has lots of options. So we can obviously do the around the neck over the head, like so, and then you pull the underneath it up because it's nice and secure under there. You can tuck it behind your ear, okay? There's a little bit of movement, so we are breathing. And again, this is going to get droplets and be fine. Now this, unlike our last scarf, is easily machine washable at home. So something that you could use as many times as you want to and just throw it in the laundry and wash it. Never bleach your scarves. They almost always have dye that's sensitive to bleach, but you can use either the gentle cycle or just some warm water. Now with this scarf, you can obviously do this option as well, and it is pretty easy. However, I recommend that you go from the back, pull a bunch of this over, so you have mostly that, and then just do a multi-wrap, like so. And why do we do a multi-wrap? Well, now we have extra layers between our face and the cloth, but more importantly, this keeps you warm if it's cold. So for those of you who live in colder climates, this is multifunctional. Your respiratory secretions are not spread all over your neighbor, but you're also actually warm. So the one variation you can do on that last scarf is use a standard cotton wool, typical winter scarf, which still has breathability. But for this one, I'm going to demonstrate this on another person so that you can see the variations. So our model is going to step in now. Hello. So as we said, we can do the front, and we're just going to wrap that around again, and then you can just tie that in the back. So, and then you just adjust it. Now, can you breathe for us, please? See the breathability. He's still getting air in, but all of his respiratory secretions and vile nasties are staying inside the cloth. This is easily machine washable, can even be washed in hot water so that it's easily sterilized. Let's do one more. This is a brushed wool, so it's very, very soft. Let's check breathability. Could you open mouth breathe first, please? See how it's not moving very much? So this is probably a little bit too porous, so that's okay. All you want to do is make sure that you wrap it a couple of times around. So we're going to go twice on this one and then tie it in the back. Not too tight. We don't want it to be able to not breathe. And then we just adjust it down. Notice the ears are covered. So if it's cold, you're getting a little bit of that. And he's got 2 layers, 1 and then 2. Can you feel those 2 layers? He's got 2 layers. Now, can you breathe for us? Do you feel uncomfortable breathing? No. Okay, so we've covered his mouth. The nasties are staying inside, easily machine washable, but doubled over for sure because we want to make sure that we have that protective barrier. Now here's a fun variation. This is in fact cashmere. Very, very lovely, soft material, but breathable. And what we'd really like to do is get this on our faces, but have a layer of protection. And so that's really going to require that we double this because it's so thin and so delicate and expensive and beautiful. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold it over first so that it's got a nice double layer naturally. So it's actually already doubled. We're going to put the folded edge, not the unfolded edge, so we don't lose any traction there, over our nose. Throw that around and then just do a second layer as well. And you see with the length of this one, we've got plenty of scarf to work with. And now we can just tie this underneath like so. Maybe give it a cute little puff, okay? And then we're covered. Now again, as we said in the earlier scarf, if you're worried about it not being tight enough, you can always use a scrunchie to get some more in the back. But the key is you want your nostrils to be pointing into the cloth. So this doesn't work, okay? It's got to be over the nose, clearly. And you also want your mouth to be completely covered. And now, we can see that it's breathing. I can still breathe, but the respiratory droplets are kept inside. If you are not sure if it's tight enough or if you're getting enough, if you give yourself a couple of deep breaths, you'll feel your face getting warm and moist. That means that the respiratory droplets, the fluid from your lungs that's usually aerosolized, is being trapped inside the cloth. If you do that, say 10 times in a row, and the outside of the cloth starts to feel wet, and it still is wet out here, then either you're breathing too heavy, whatever, or more importantly, it could be that the material is not impervious. So with a surgical mask, with an N95 mask, you can breathe through it all day long. The outside stays dry. So this isn't going to be the case with scarves. Hence the reason to have multiple scarves like I do, so that you can change them every couple of hours if you really need to be outside a lot. Now, unfortunately, some scarves are just not going to work. For example, I have this beautiful Alexander McQueen scarf here, you can see, with the signature skulls and some embroidered roses, and it's really beautiful, but you can see that it is very thin. You can see right through that, and watch the breathe test. See that it doesn't even move because it's so porous that basically everything is going through. Now, you also don't want to put a lot of disgusting things on the scarf because it's very expensive and difficult to have cleaned. And in fact, probably you should only wear it in situations where it doesn't need to be cleaned. Look, there's a skull. Hey, McQueen, love Alexander. So I wouldn't recommend using this one, except maybe as an over scarf after you've covered yourself. So let's see what that would look like. And here we're going to use a standard, easily cleanable cotton scarf. It is a little porous, but still breathable. And we're going to start this off by doubling it over like we did with the expensive cashmere. I love cashmere. It's now doubled over, so we only have 2 layers, sorry. We're going to find that folded layer, which is here. We're going to wrap. There we go. And just make sure that we have that maybe over our ears. If we need to, if it's cold, then bring it around, covering our nose a second time. All right, and now we can just tie that off. You can also do the stuff method where you just stuff all of it underneath. Okay, so now this is okay, it's working. It's just not very pretty. So now we can take our Alexander McQueen and we can just gently layer that over our existing scarf. like so. Our nose is covered, but so is our Alexander McQueen scarf protected, and it stays beautiful and free of respiratory pathogens. And our underlying disgusting ugly scarf can easily be washed and dried. And our last scarf, again, just a standard wool knitted scarf. This one, I don't know, this is from somewhere. I don't know where this is from. Somewhere, I don't know. We put that over. You have to be really careful. You want to take this and touch your nose with it and then wrap, because the wool itself is a little bit more slippery. Okay? And now you can get a nice tuck under there. And it's almost like you've wrapped your head in a sock. It is really nice and tough. But here's what I want you to see. See this? That's extra cloth near your mouth and your nose, which is capturing all those respiratory droplets. So even though we've got 2 layers here, we've got a bunch of cloth stuck underneath, and that's collecting all those respiratory pathogens and droplets so that they don't get out into the environment and kill people, right? So, excellent. I hope you've enjoyed this make your own face mask video using all those scarves you have in your closet, like I do. If you have questions about what you should actually be doing to protect yourself, please check with a verified news source and/or government agency, which is supposed to be giving you the correct advice that you need and not listening to a crazy guy with a house full of scarves.